It's time, you all. It's time for the new writing series. Hi, I'm Jenna and I write science fiction fantasy novels and talk about creativity and writing and all that good stuff here on this channel. If you guys don't remember, I had a series on this channel called Writing Episodes where I talked about my queer space opera, Spaceborn, getting ready from zero draft all the way over to the query trenches. I wrapped up that by saying, hey, I started querying, yada yada, see you guys when I have news. If you want to see the querying update vlog when it's posted, I will leave it right up there in the corner. But now we are back to talk about my brand new book, which is a spicy Viking fantasy novel. It's called Between the Shadows and the Dawn, and is the first book in the Divided Gods series. Name voted on by my patrons over on Patreon. If you want to sign up and learn more about the book, links down below. So, what in the world is this book about? Well, I can first tell you all about my main character and her love interest, who I am so excited for you guys to meet. Main character's name is Adelaide. She is a keeper of the Divide. Now you're like, what in the world is the Divide, Jenna? The Divide is a mountain range that splits up the human lands of Midgard from New Alfheim, the home of the Elven. This book is heavily based off of Norse myth, so if you know of Alfheim, it is the land of the elves. However, in this world, Alfheim was destroyed by humans, and so the elves came to Midgard and took a little corner of their world for their own. Then the mountain range, called the Divide, was built up in between them to keep the two factions from interfering with each other, because obviously tensions were high. But this mountain range has kind of a little secret, which is that it is absolutely chock full of spirits. It's kind of well known, but most people don't see the spirits until people go poking around in the mountains like they're not supposed to. Which is why Adelaide, as a keeper, is supposed to keep the humans away and the elves in their home and keep everyone separated and away from the spirits. And she's not the only keeper. She also lives with her whole family in this nice cozy ass cottage in the mountains atop the Divide, and they're all elves. They all love each other very much. They all bicker like crazy, and they're her most important people to her. So of course, what's the inciting incident? What could possibly make this person who loves her mountain and has a duty to protect people by keeping the spirits at bay from leaving? The fucking thing blows up. The book starts out with Adelaide being out and about in the mountains, and the mountain absolutely starts to just go fucking ham. And something's happened to it. So now her family is missing. She doesn't know if they're alive or dead, and some humans got their fucking hands on her, and she doesn't know if they plan to kill her or praise her, woo her. Very confused about it. So that's kind of the basis for where the story begins, and obviously that is where I have about written up to, so I don't know what else happens next yet. 100%, because I have an outline, but it's all subject to change. Everything I actually say is subject to change. It's sort of a steamy, spicy, kinky romance of almost enemies / reluctant allies to friends to lovers to who knows. And Adelaide is a very elegant but sassy main character. She's definitely, I would say, more mentally stable than Soraya. Oh, bless you, doggy. She's definitely more mentally stable than Soraya from Spaceborn was, I will say that much, but she might not be by the end of the book. We shall see. If I compare these two books, they are basically night and day to each other. So Spaceborn was very much a very angry book. It was very much about clawing onto hope with both your hands and hoping it'll drag you out of a pit of hell. And there was a lot of rage and anger in that book, and at the time, and for a very long time, that's really what I needed in my own personal life. I needed to see my anger reflected in somebody else and see that they made it out of the situation that was fucking with them. Now I'm at a point instead where I no longer have to claw at hope. Instead, hope is just simply there and I feel it, and some days sure it's not, but I know it'll come back because I actually have hope. I'm not searching for it anymore. And this book is very much a story about having hope even in the midst of your grief and learning to process generational trauma and learn to process just where you come from and the fact that it might not have been what you thought it was. So that's a little bit about Adelaide and the story as a whole. I think it definitely is summed up in the title, which I'm so glad my patrons picked that title. I think the dynamics of the story are really wrapped up in the title that my patrons chose, which is Between the Shadows and the Dawn. So the book very much is this balance between things like hope and things like rage, things, you can see Katara's little tail, things like sorrow and things like happiness. It's very much a duality between things and feelings that usually don't go together, but somehow they actually do. I'm sorry if you see the dog going under my desk. She thinks it's her little den. It's her cave. So if you guys want to see a little bit more about it, I do have 2 recommendations for you right off the bat, which is that I use the hashtag Viking Family Whip over on Twitter to document some of what's happening with the book in real time. I also am doing NaNoWriMo / Finish Your Book Fall, so both of those hashtags are all over my Twitter right now. If you want to see my in-time word counts and my process with doing NaNoWriMo for the first time truly since like 2016. I also have the recommendation if you want to see a little bit more about the specific lines that I'm doing. I am sharing that more so on TikTok, mainly because they're a little bit steamy, and that content seems to just do better over there. Aesthetics. Oh, the aesthetic of this book. Again, completely different from Spaceborne. When I think of Spaceborne and sort of its vibe or its energy, it's definitely more like neons of purple and blues and pinks. Definitely very purple. Oh, and how did I forget red? Red is like Soraya's main color. But when I think of Adelaide, she comes across more as like a soft blue or a white, maybe like a gentle green. The book as a whole is definitely more blue and icy. A lot of it takes place in the like Scandinavian inspired wilderness. Very Aurora Borealis energy. I'll put some aesthetics I've made for it already on the screen for you so you can kind of get a gist of what the energy is. I also have a growing playlist on Spotify down below, which I will also link. My progress so far. Now, I am currently sitting at about 10k words. I have written about 4,000 of those during NaNoWriMo in the last 3 days. So progress has been slow. However, I do have a pretty beefy outline that just keeps growing. And a lot of world building I had to do. I've been doing a lot of research into Norse mythology and into Scandinavian culture to try and get this right, which, related and side tangent, all at the same time, is that this has been also a very personal journey for me personally. If you guys remember a long time ago, I was talking about how I had my whole ancestry journey, which I still may or may not make a video on. I'm honestly not sure if you guys are interested, so let me know if you are. But basically I found out on my father's side I am majority Swedish, little Finnish, from his mother's side. And from his dad's side, a bit of German and Irish. There's also some other fun splashes of things thrown in there, but for the most part, I am Swedish on my dad's side and Scottish on my mom's side. So I've been learning a lot more about the cultural aspects of those countries and sort of like how my families came to be. And one of my big things was finding out more about Swedish stuff and Norse mythology and all those kinds of things. Because that's a lot of the family that I didn't know. Who I've now gotten in contact with and, you know, wanted to connect with in some sort of way. And that led me to all of this Norse pagan stuff and all of this exciting stuff of learning about Swedish and Scandinavian and Finnish culture and stuff. So that is sort of how I came to the decision that this book was going to be Viking and Norse themed. Previously, when I had wrote a version of this book, which was very loosely based, basically the only thing that stayed the same was the title and the fact that there's elves in it, was way back when I was in college. The book that I wrote for my creative writing class was actually a book with elves called Between the Shadows and the Dawn. Basically nothing stayed the same since I wrote that book, but back then it was not Norse, pagan, Viking inspired. But figuring that out, that I wanted to write a story that was more of like my cultural and where I came from, which would also help me reconnect with my roots, was something that I found very interesting, something that I'm definitely going to be doing again with my Scottish ancestry as well. So that's kind of where this whole concept and everything came to be. And I really solidified it instead of just being something where it was a culture that I made up. Instead, it's more based in not necessarily history, but it is based in the vibe and energy of the Viking era. So common questions I've heard about this book is it really just a Cullen the villain from Dragon Age Inquisition retelling? It is definitely inspired by them. It is definitely not a retelling though, because that would be copyright infringement and just be fanfiction. Another thing I get is, when is the book coming out? Everyone on TikTok is asking this. I'm not planning to release this book traditionally. I'm planning to go my own unique route, and that's all I'm going to say about it for now. But my Patreon, link down below, already knows all the details, and that's all I will say for now. I'll also be having a video coming out all about my querying journey thus far, so make sure to keep your eyes out for that. Oh my god, she's underneath the camera. Alright, I think that's a sign for me to go, so I will see you guys next time, so bye!